Good morning. Welcome to Between Two Hedges. Good morning, Tina Villard.
Good morning to you too.
For everyone joining us, thank you for getting on the call. First time joining us, we have Tina Villard here, our Senior Associate Athletic Director for Campus Recreation. Look forward to speaking with her. You guys are all on mute. There is a Q&A function, so as always, we encourage you guys to participate and send in your questions. We will answer them throughout the call and definitely devote some time at the back end of the call as well if we don't get them in the midst. So with all that said, Tina, how's your Thursday?
It's going okay. You know, in the land of the pandemic, every day's a new day. It feels
Every day is a new day. I can tell that's the virtual background because of the sky, but yeah. I know we'll touch on kind of your excitement of some of the things we have going on at the Gibbs Center and the reopening scheduled for next week. But to start off, you are a familiar face, and we love everything you bring to the table. But I would love for the folks who maybe don't know you as well to get an idea of what brought you to Rice and kind of start with your path.
Yeah. So I started off in Canada. I'm Canadian. I'm dual now. So I've been actually almost in the States as long as I lived in Canada. So I'm almost on the cusp of really being truly dual at this point. I started at Brock University in just outside of Niagara Falls, and I made my way to the States to do my master's. And you know, I've always enjoyed sports and recreation, and which is what really led me to continue my path to Rice University. And so I was a downhill skier as I started in Canada. So that's where my sports background came in. And actually, interestingly enough, I also ran during the summers, but not because I really liked running, although I really do now. But back then, you know, in the winter, you trained on the ski hill, but in the summer with no snow, you had to train another way. So running was my deal.
A question for it. Is there any, since you've been in Houston, like, is there like a meetup group for downhill skiers? Is there like a group of you guys that get together and remainice about the old?
You know, it's funny. Well, there is a Canadian group, I will say. There's a Facebook group that meets at the Maple Leaf Lounge downtown in Houston.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nicely named, of course. But they meet up, you know, every 6 months or so. So I kind of get my Canadian fix a little bit that way. But, you know, skiing and actually with running has always kind of been an individual sport for me. So there is times where I like to ski with a group, and clearly I skied with a club for many years. But I also like my alone time and, you know, having that time to think. And I think a lot of people ask me about that when I'm running. You know, how do you keep your mind off running? Because I'm always thinking, oh, it's so hot out here or whatever. But I really don't think about running when I'm out there. It's really a time for me to gather my thoughts and think about the next day and work out all my problems. And so it's great. And I think I felt the same way about skiing. Once you're on that hill and the wind's in your face, and it's pretty exhilarating.
Are the families, are they all pretty proficient at skiing themselves, or?
Oh, yeah. You know, it's funny. My mom stayed home, but everybody else skied. So when I meet I have an older brother and a younger brother. So when we meet their families out, we usually try and find either a sandy, hot space because, you know, they're in the snow in the winter, or we go and find a ski place. So
where's the ski destination of choice?
Usually it's in Ontario or on the other side in British Columbia, but they've met me down in Colorado a couple times, but mostly we tend to stick with Canada. You know, the Canadian dollar really helps me out lately.
I'm a queen out here. I'm a queen. Oh. So, you know, it's here's why I insert the corny joke, right? So you've been at Rice now 20 years come the first. So obviously when you were 15, right?
That's right. I'm very young.
And so I think what's fascinating is, you know, we see campus rec and kind of all the levels and the different branches and everything you're involved with today, and just how mature and just how awesome the operation is. But it wasn't always like that, right? You kind of helped found this, you know, you were co-founder of sorts for Rice Campus Rec. So talk about that story about you arriving to Rice and, you know, the last 20 years of bringing this thing up to where it's at today.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because, you know, clearly with my past, we moved around a lot. You know, I didn't have any problems, moving to the States to my master's and moving to Texas to start working at Rice. And so I'm not usually one, I'm really looking for the opportunity to grow and to continue to grow operations. And so I, for one, never would have thought I would have been at Rice for 20 years until I got here and really saw what the culture of Rice is, and also being able to build all of these great things. So, when I started 20 years ago, the rec department didn't exist. There was a handful of us that ran rec programming within kinesiology. And so, yeah, those first 3 years were instrumental in being a part of something that I could grow and continue to grow, 20 years later. And so that's been really exciting for me. When my mentor left a few years into me starting at Rice, I had an opportunity to move into the director's position as we moved over into athletics. And we've just continued to do so much, with bringing the new building online, and just all the way now into all of this great programming that we get to do. Even inside of this pandemic, we're coming up with all kinds of different ideas of things to do. And so, we're continually growing and changing. And I think that's been the opportunity that I really relished at Rice. And it's a lot of the reason why I've stayed.
Well, now you have the shiny office at the Gibbs Center. Where was your first office? Like, where was your actual first office location at Rice?
It was funny because we're doing some testing centers in the back of Tudor Fieldhouse. And so my office was back there. I shared it with 2 students. Yeah, as the director of the rec center, I shared it with 2 students, and all of our employees actually shared. And we were in very small spaces. We actually split one office in half, and I don't even know. I think the offices were 80 square feet or something like that. But yeah, all of us were back there on the back half of kinesiology. I think that they were happy to see us go. Clearly it opened some space up for them as well. So yeah, during that time, we transitioned into a metal building for a time period before we moved into the new rec center, because Tudor Fieldhouse was getting their renovation and the same time as we were building the new rec center, and everything kind of collided. So it was an interesting time. But again, while there are challenges, it brings opportunity for us to do new things.
Yep. So in your role overseeing, kind of leading campus rec, I think one thing that becomes the staple for everybody is the summer youth activities program, right? And that's your baby. Talk about that. Talk about kind of the birth of that and where it's grown to today.
Yeah, so when I started at Rice, there was we small kind of kids program. There was 20 kids in it, and so Daniel, who I spoke about a little bit earlier, my mentor, we really built that into a larger program. Everything was pen and paper back then, but we went from, having 20 kids to having closer to 80. And when we built the new rec center, we had this opportunity now we're at 150 each session. So that's, almost 500 kids that we put through in the summer. Most of them are faculty, staff, and alumni and community children. So we know the faces well. A lot of them are on campus. A lot of them come and use our rec center. And so, those kids are like our kids, and it's been a great program. It's really given us an opportunity to run a whole bunch of programs that we would normally have to have charged for. So, our virtual programs, for example, have been really running off those funds. It's been hard not having that program this summer for sure. It's limited us in some ways, but we continue to be passionate about giving rec and fitness to our patrons. And so we want to continue to do that in any capacity that we can. But we know that our kids will come back for SIAP next year. And so we're just excited to, get past this pandemic and bring that program back. But it really was an amazing program that we brought up from very little to this amazing, huge program that's really only word of mouth. I mean, we sell out and we really don't advertise at all for it. We have some great student staff that work for us, and our full-time staff that run that program are exceptional, and we've really made it top of the line.
Yeah, it's part of the fabric, right? And I remember when I started 2 years ago, we would talk about supporters and names, you mentioned, oh yeah, they graduate through SIAP, their kids graduate through SIAP. They come to me and say, hey, is there spots inside? And I didn't fully grasp it until a few months in. We're like, wow, this is a big deal for community and for our supporters. So neat to hear that. I think the other, obviously, we talked about the Gibbs Center, the crown jewel of kind of campus rec. It's something you've had a huge part in. And I'd love for you to speak on that. And then there's a little tidbit to it that you mentioned to me yesterday in terms of the condition, the state you were in. That
so
is pretty
one of my personal accomplishments was when we were building the Gibbs. And again, I did not plan it this way, but with any construction, construction ran late. We were like 6 weeks late. And I was pregnant at the time, and Max, my now 10-year-old, and the building's 10 years old, decided he was going to come 6 weeks early. So they collided. And so while I was 9 months pregnant opening the building, I had Max 10 days after we opened.
That's fantastic. and speak on what the Gibbs has meant for you guys, what that center has meant for Campus Rec.
It's huge. I mean, I think it's funny when I talk to my staff about those times, they've always had these big programs in these little tiny spaces. And when we moved into Gibbs, they were kind of like, I don't even know where to start, but it did not take them long to realize that having all these spaces just meant that we could do so much more for people. And so it has clearly given us shape to build and to grow and to be so much better than we were in those smaller spaces. And it's been a piece of vibrancy for campus that I think everyone would agree was a great add 10 years ago, and has really brought the campus together, and it has given people an outlet to make sure that they're staying sane and mentally healthy and physically healthy. And I think for us, we just continue to grow, and that space has been great for us.
Without a doubt. I think for those joining the call right now, Tina Villard, our Senior Associate Athletic Director for Campus Recreation, speaking on her experiences. One thing's unique about Rice, and it's not, it's unique across the country, is Campus Rec is a part of the athletic department. It is a branch within the athletic department, where with some other universities, it's not that same way. So Tina's role, also, she's a sport admin. So we've spoken with a few sport admins here, and Tina oversees our swimming program. Tina, talk a little about your, what that entails for you, your relationship with Seth Houston, and just kind of the value placed on overseeing that program.
Yeah, I think it was a great ad. Absolutely. Seth and I have always had a really good relationship. Clearly he works out of my building, and so it made perfect sense that I would start overseeing that program. For Seth and I, it has made, I hope for him, an easy access to his sport administrator, since we're in the same building. I regularly go down and check on the swimmers and see how he's doing and if they need anything, and just to see how they're doing in general. And it's an opportunity, I think, that we would have missed not doing it. So I was really appreciative to take it on. I think Seth has really enjoyed that relationship. We had a good relationship to begin with, and so it's just really grown and blossomed from there. I can really see what they need when they need it. It's just a different kind of situation having us both in that same building and seeing things happen as they happen.
Yes. So we'll talk about right now, right? The COVID, month 4 or 5. Obviously, you have a prominent role on campus withstanding regardless under normal circumstances, but your role has kind of increased in significance in terms of your aspect and your position on our crisis management team on campus. So make the title right? You're the Deputy Chief of Operations. Right? We joke around that your badge is on the way.
I know. I've been still waiting for it.
but for those who maybe they see the quick briefings, or they might get the updates from the president or from the crisis management team, speak on your role and then maybe in general what the crisis management team is mission to do during this period.
Yeah, so generally there's 2 branches. There's CMAC, which is the Crisis Advisory Council, which is made up of the president's cabinet. And so that group, and they have a doctor that also, and some other people from the medical center that will help them make some decisions. And so that group as a whole and really kind of directs how Rice will continue to move through this pandemic. As the Deputy Chief for Operations, I work closely with Clemente Rodriguez, who's the current, he's Chief of Police, and he's also Chief of Operations. But we make those things happen. So for an example, Rice has already announced that they'll be testing all their faculty, staff, and students who are on campus. And so when they make that decision, it kind of rolls down to us to make it happen. So that's been a big part of my role just in the last couple weeks. All of this stuff moves so quickly. It's really in my repertoire. So I've enjoyed the work. Like I said earlier, with every challenge, there's opportunity. And so for me, because I kind of thrive in an arena where we need to make some quick decisions and thoughtful decisions and how we move forward. I think it's a great role that I've been placed in, and I've really enjoyed it. It's tiring work because there's a lot that we're trying to get done in a small amount of time, but I do believe that it's challenging work for me, and so it's been a really good fit. I've enjoyed it as we've moved through this stuff, and it's hard to say enjoy because clearly no one's enjoying their time during the pandemic. But I'm a problem solver at heart, and so and that's really what we've been trying to do through this whole process. And so it's a big team that we work with. So clearly it's just not Clemente and I, and Jerusha has been instrumental, and the team that works with us have really stepped up, and really most employees at Rice University have stepped up. It's a trying time, and it's time for everyone to dig in and start working through this. And so they've been big help too.
We sticker about it a little bit, but how many hours would you say you're on a Zoom call? How many hours are you staring at the tiny screen?
Honestly, I can't even, I mean, it's, my work hours have, they talk about like the home life balance. There is no home life balance right now. At the same time, it's funny, my kids are in and out of Zoom calls too. I'm sure you feel the same way. So I think everybody's just making it work. And I understand, having kids at home, mine are 10 and 12. So, you're just working through it. It is, and I said this before, it's a hard time, but I think it is what it is. And so you can kind of mellow through it, or you can decide to work as much as you can to get through it in a really positive way. And that's kind of my outlook in general.
You're correct. All right, so I'm gonna put you on the spot right now before I get the next question. Right, we talked. You being Canadian, you've been here for over 20 years. The Raptors play the Rockets in the finals. Who are you cheering for?
That's a really hard one. Who am I sitting with?
Good call. All right. So we'll leave it there. All right. So depending on the company will depend on your rooting interest. All right.
Exactly.
I think for those on the call, you might have seen there are, the university, we're excited about some plans we have in place to stage a reentry for our students and for our campus over the next several weeks. One big part of that, and I know Tina, you're excited about, is the reopening of the Gibbs Center. If you speak on that, and what are some of the things we should expect? What are some of the things you're excited about with that coming back online next week?
Yeah, I'm very excited. So it is a soft opening. We're not doing a lot of advertising we do want to test out some of our systems, but some of the things that we put in place is we've basically built 2 cardio rooms. So all of the machines are now more than 10 feet apart. We have machines set up in the cardio room, but then we're also using one of our gyms on the 2nd floor as a second cardio room, just to make it as safe as we possibly can. We've also trained all of our staff in proper PPE, and we've set up plexiglass in order to make sure that they're safe. And so ultimately our plan is to keep our participants and our staff as safe as we possibly can. But we really know the importance of the health and wellness of this population. And if we don't get open, right, I mean, I think people are feeling it, right? Being at home all the time. It's hot outside. As a runner, I ran this morning and I thought, oh God, I feel like I'm breathing water. It's so humid out. And so, I understand that people need that inside space, but they need to have it in a really safe place. And so ultimately that is our goal, is to make the space as safe as possible for all of our patrons coming in. We've increased our cleaning procedures. We've made sure that we're fully stocked and supplied, not only with PPE, but then all of the wipes and all the cleaning products that we'll need to continue through the semester. And so again, we've tried to do our best to make it as safe as possible. We'll have everything in 75-minute blocks. So people will have to reserve space to come in, whether it's within the cardio weight rooms or whether it's in the competition pool, which will also be opening. And so again, you'll kind of have your own time, your own space, and we're hoping to make it as safe as possible.
That's awesome. Question in, what Can you speak on what the new indoor training facility will mean for campus rec club sports?
Yeah, I think even right now, we've talked about, I think we probably won't be doing a ton of intramural sports, contact sports right away. But, we've talked about laser tag, and my guys are working on some super creative things. And I think the students are going to be super excited about it. But what the wall trip, I think, brings us is a space where people can wear masks indoors. And because, again, it's hot outside. And so things like laser tag and things like that, I think will be great in that new indoor space. And of course, I can't tell you, my club guy is just, chomping at the bit to get close sports back up and running and then get into that wall trip for sure. So I think it'll give us a space, clearly, that we will be out of the rain and out of the heat. And the students are always looking for
that. Question and comment in. Hi, Tina, it's Jen Overton. Great to see you. Are you selling rec center memberships for 2021?
We will be, yes, very soon. So we unbelievably, and I say believably or unbelievably, we had a ton of people that wanted to stay members. I mean, I think because our facility is as, like we're setting up as safe as we can. And I think people know the benefits of being a member at the rec center. So we have limited memberships, but we will be selling for the 2021 year. Probably check back with us in a week or so. We're just still hashing out who's in, who's out. But we've had a lot of generous donors that have really helped us keep those virtual classes. And so in lieu of a refund, they've donated their funds to make sure that we can continue those classes. And a lot of those members have stayed on. We had one great letter from one of our members, and I know Mike was able
we should have set that up so you could screen share it.
I know he was awesome, but and the email really talked about how much he loved us, how much he wanted to keep his membership, and that really he would do anything in order to keep it. And he also donated to our virtual programs, and so we really appreciate that. So like I said, we will have some limited memberships, but we've been really lucky to keep that core group that have just loved being in the Gibbs.
Yeah, and we could speak on to it between the campus rec and the out club. One of the bright spots of this whole pandemic has been just the outpouring of support and the people who have redeemed their fees, dues, gifts, or ticket payments, season tickets, membership fees at the rec center into outright gifts has been inspiring. So it's been extremely helpful to get us through this period. So really grateful for that. I'm not going to let you go until you pop up the background that I love to death of your staff, the Brady Bunch background. That is actually, it's quite hard to have a conversation with you when you have it on.
All right, let me see.
It's peripheral, but it is fantastic.
This is a handful of some of my really great staff.
Can you name them out? Can you go through them all, point them out in the roles?
Yeah, so on my bottom left here is Lisa Pedraza. She's actually anyone who's bought a membership and has worked with her. She's awesome. We call her a customer relations specialist. Ultimately, we put that title together because she is jack of all trades. I mean, when it comes to customers, she's your gal and she'll hook you up. And then Elizabeth Slater, that's above her. She's our associate director for programs. She's my creative one. So awesome at coming up with new programming ideas, thinking outside the box, excellent in that way. Teresa Tucker, she's kind of in our background and a lot of people don't necessarily get to meet her, but she's the one that deals with all the finances and she's the one that processed all those donations and does a great job for us. She's been with us for a long time. Dave Broadstone is a newer hire, although I say that and he came back to us from Miami. And so he's in our facilities group. And then for those that have gone to the rec center, of course, they know Dee Dee and Rudy. They are our front desk staff and everyone gets to see them. They've also worked for us for a really long time. And really the longevity of the staff in this group is really where it's at. But those two are our regulars and everyone gets to see them. And then Evan Stein, he's our associate director for operations. He's my numbers guy. I mean, he can crunch anything in seconds. Don't ever go up against him. You are bound to lose.
We need to pair up a Tanner Gardner, Evan Stein, brain bowl, right? Like
we would be in trouble for sure.
Oh, fantastic television.
And then Andy's our bottom one there, and he works with Lisa. And so again, he's actually the one that answers the phone. If you ever call our main line, you'll get Andy. And so he's a smiling face. I mean, he is literally what you see pictured right there on our screen.
That's so good. That's so good.
And now this is just a handful of the staff that we have that have been working so hard to get us opened and get us going. And so I've been appreciative of all of them. Really, I couldn't have done it without them, and they've been instrumental in getting us back up and running.
Well, so you mentioned longevity. I think that's definitely a testament to you as a leader. And so you make it a fun place to work. You make it. I love working with you. You're one of my favorite people. Period. So I appreciate you taking the time this morning, Tina Villard. This was fun. For those on the call, Tina's going to cap our summer series. I wanted to cap it on style, so we will call it a summer. Episode 10 will be the last one for this summer, and we'll do some spot highlights throughout the fall. But thank you for joining us throughout. Tina, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Always be safe, stay with each other, have fun, and go Owls.
Go Owls.
Go Owls. Bye, y'all.